Welcome to the Grit Daily Startup. I'm your host, Sebastian Rusk, and this is a podcast about what goes on behind the scenes at startups. The good, the bad, and the gritty. Let's dive in. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Great to be here.
It's great to have you here, man. So you're definitely up to some exciting things here in the Web3 space. I'm excited to learn about. The show's about the good, the bad, the gritty of the startup world. So we'll chat a little bit about your journey as a startup and what your experience has been, good, bad, and gritty. But before we do all that, let's help our listeners better understand a little bit more about you and your background and what really brought you to present day and what you're currently working on.
Sure. So I've been in startups for 10 years now, Web2 for 5 and Web3 for 5. Made the turn to go like fully into crypto, but in the 2017 ICO boom, started a company called Akash, AKT. Moved along after that to contracting for a couple companies. Worked with Vlad Zamfir on his Casper upgrade, Ethereum's Casper upgrade during the crypto winter. Did a couple DeFi projects. Then started a growth consultancy that I run now called Mewn, where we basically, every crypto company I've seen has all kinds of problems and all kinds of, issues to work through. So we just help work through it. We're probably best known for, in 2021, taking this company Kadena, which is like a nascent L1 company, and helping them go from around $80 million market cap to around $4 billion in a little over 4 months. And so we do a combination of things, and I do a combination of things from like marketing, business development, investor relations, ecosystem development, pretty much whatever a crypto company needs to kind of get it to the next level. A lot of it ends up having to do with management, because what I've seen with a lot of these companies is they just don't function as well as they're supposed to behind the scenes. And so it's like a lot of just like hand holding and like getting things where they need to be and like learning how to do office politics. But at the end of the day, this is the best space to be in the entire world. And when you help these companies, it's incredibly beneficial for you and for them and for everyone involved.
Absolutely. So, you got your hands in fire a little bit in this blockchain ecosystem development agency, as your website says, which you're exactly right. It is the best place to be right now, because it is where we are. It's where we're headed, and will continue to be on here. So if someone's involved in the crypto space, what would be some of the reasons that they would need what you do and your assistance with what they're doing?
Well, every project has its own set of things that they don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. And,
Sure.
And crypto moves so fast that there's like very few experts. I'm not saying that I'm an expert, but like it takes a long time to kind of get your bearings on what's going on and all the different sides of it. So like, a lot of companies need help on their go-to-market strategy. They need help on like how to set up their narratives and their messaging, how to get PR, bring in influencers, like how to like show the world what they're trying to do and tell their story, which, it's a big part of this game. And then there's, of course, the user adoption side of it, the investor side of it, the business development side of it, the partnership side of it, the growth, I would say, like side of it in that realm. And the end result, no matter if you're launching a token or you already have an established token, ends up being the token price. If you're doing well, the token price seems to increase. If people seem to believe you're doing well, the token price increases. Or maybe just the token price increases makes people think you're doing well. So that's kind of the marker that we kind of put ourselves on at Mewn, is that like, when we work with you, that's how we want to be judged. Like if we're doing our jobs effectively, we're helping this number go up, which is kind of like the overall like KPI, that we're like, being beneficial for you and things are working.
Absolutely. I read in the notes here when I was reading up about you a little bit, it says that you're aiming to help the entirety of the ecosystem grow by creating a blockchain development ecosystem that solidifies the foundation of the space. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. Well, I've worked with a couple different L1s, like, your Ethereums, your Kadenas, your Solana's out there that like it's more than just like their own project. They have a whole ecosystem that they're building around them, and a lot of different chains, not even L1s. I mean, it could be L2s, it could be all forms of, you name it in the space. They're trying to build an ecosystem around them. And so that's just one of those things that I think is pretty beneficial that we also try to help with.
Absolutely.
A lot of that also has to do with throwing events. So we do a lot of big industry-wide events to bring people together as well.
Sure. And what do those events look like? That's an interesting, because in this Web3 space, we're so hyper connected as we have been for the past couple decades, but especially now with, the metaverse and NFTs and what does that look like bringing people together? I know that NFT events and blockchain events and crypto events have been crazy popular over the past, even 4 years that I know of. I'm sure much longer than that. And especially more so over the past 2 years. So let's talk about the event side, like what you're doing there to bring people together. That's really interesting.
Yeah, well, my bread and butter in my professional career has always been in events. My first company was called Angelhack. We did hackathons around the world. We did around 300 hackathons in 50 different cities worldwide. It was, a big events company, big event production. For crypto, I usually tend to do the big VIP party at every major conference. So in 2021, I think we did 5 large scale VIP parties with like the big DJ and, the big list and all that stuff. And that seems to be for me what one of the most effective tools I have for bringing people together. We're working on some new products this year for 2022, more around like doing some more like DeFi events and education events and some crypto focused hackathons and also a large conference. We're just scaling that up right now. So, with that and, with what we do before, it'll be a pretty big event production year. Today, specifically, we're in Denver, me and my team, and we're doing this thing called the multi-chain party with a bunch of the Ethereum L2s. So it's like the big, the big community event for the Ethereum Denver thing up here. So we're pretty excited about that. That'll be tonight.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I did hear about there is it was a Ethereum Denver or Denver Ethereum. I did hear an event happening this week.
Yeah, it's happening right now.
Love it. Sounds like a great time, and I did not get the memo. I mean, then I guess there's still time to get to Denver, huh?
No, the really big one. There's Avalanche Summit next month. There's Dubai, but really the big one is the Miami Bitcoin Conference in April. That's the one where people are really going to go all out.
Yeah. Well, Grid Daily will be there most likely, so I'm looking forward to that. And plus, it's right here in my backyard, our backyard, I guess I should say, right?
That's right.
Local Miami guy here.
We're going to throw a big party. We're going to introduce some people.
I love it, dude. I absolutely love it. There's so much happening with this space. Headed to Austin next month for South by. I'm excited to see how the world's transpired since then. So yeah, events definitely bringing people together, and people are they're just so nice at these events and like the Web3 events. It's a different experience than just your old school conference or meetup or get together. It seems like there's a lot of, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a lot of momentum around this Web3 blockchain space that we're in and we will continue to be in. Have you experienced that too?
Ton. Things move so fast. You're at one of these events, you meet somebody who can completely change your whole life, your whole business. You don't even know what you're walking into.
Right.
It you don't even know.
Right. But you gotta be there. That's the that's the trick there. So
what's that quote? They say 80% of life is showing up.
That's it, man. That's it. I tell myself that every single morning. It's a great reminder. So, what's on deck for 2022? We're just getting started at the time of us recording this episode. We're in the very beginning here in mid-February of 2022. What's on the chalkboard for the year regarding what you guys are currently working on? What are you most excited about?
So my main client that I work with, and pretty much like my full-time thing now, is I work with this company called Anchor, ANKR, and Anchor is an infrastructure company. They put down access most of the nodes for a lot of the big chains out there. So they're working on being the leader in Web3, infrastructure and decentralizing their infrastructure. They started off being a little bit centralized. And so moving in there, I'm their new CM BDO. So it's a head of marketing and business development role. One of the things we're working on right now is redoing all the tokenomics, redoing the protocol, launching a new side of the protocol as well, beyond infrastructure for all these new DeFi solutions that we're making on all these other chains. They're already partnered with like Binance and Polygon and Phantom and AVAX. You name it. These guys are like deeply rooted in the infrastructure of all these other chains. And so it's a really exciting place to be. We're touching, a lot of Web3 right now with them, somewhere in the double digits. Like, I don't know the exact percentage, but between 10 and 20%. And it's pretty exciting, like large cap company to try to, revolutionize what they do, and taking it from like, a very much like a centralized like infrastructure company to like the future of where all this stuff and decentralized Web3 infrastructure is going.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the startup world for a little bit. There's always bumps along the road. It's never an easy process. There was never a mention of easy. On this show, we like to talk a lot about the good, the bad, and the gritty. What would you say have been the most challenging experiences for you along the way? I mean, summarizing, I know there's probably a plethora. It's just part of the package deal of startup and entrepreneurship. But what have been some memorable challenges that have really helped shape you into where you're at right now?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's been learning how to do office politics. And, I'm one of those entrepreneurs that just fucking goes and I build. I'm a big vision guy. I want to build it. Other people want to help. I let them in. I probably let people in with way too much equity. I'm way too nice on stuff like that. And then, I don't have a lot of the hard conversations early, but I should have had. So that's been a learning experience, because that leads to a lot of trouble. Managing various different personalities. Some people you're just not going to work well with, and like figuring that part out and figuring out who what your team looks like, what your team doesn't look like. That's another part of it. And then like with the people that you can work with, just learning how to tactfully work through situations on complex teams and complex situations. That has been, my journey more than anything else is about that. Like when it comes to like getting the work done, getting the partners in, getting people on board, like all that, but easy, But when it comes to having to work through a lot of personnel issues, for a long period of my work career, I just didn't have the patience for it. And so it's been a lot of learning for me, and partially why I'm not I'm not working, I would say, on my own company. I mean, I work on Mewn, it's a growth agency, but we work with other companies, and part of that journey for me now is just like learning how to perfect my craft internally with these larger organizations, which has been, very fulfilling for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so to that point, what's been the most exciting part of the startup process for you?
Well, it's weird, right? Like the most exciting part is always when you have the big idea, like, before you do the work. It's just like the grandeur of the idea is always, always gets me excited. The moment when you guys hit, when extreme value creation is made, like when either you do a token generation event or when you really like 10x a token with your efforts, like that's, those monumental shifts in value are really exciting for me. The event stuff, actually, I don't get that excited about anymore. They're actually like stressful, but like they're a good community service, I feel like, and I love bringing people together, so I'm happy for it, but I rarely am enjoying myself at my own parties.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm basically just like making sure everyone else is happy and things are going smooth.
Well, somebody's got to do that, right?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if it goes wrong, it's only going to look bad for me, right? So it's got to make sure everything goes right.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of comes with the territory, though, because even if, you're the face of the brand and are the brand, it is your event, and nobody's going to be able to execute and making sure that everyone's got a great experience and that problems are minimized or handled, accordingly. I found that in my experience, too. I mean, in a perfect world, we delegate to our go-to event person and they're able to go and handle it all. But we've still got our hands in the cookie jar in some form or fashion, because it's our baby. Essentially, it's something that we want to make sure is a great experience. So I can totally get that. I can totally do that. But at the end of the day, it still is a Web3 event bringing people together. So there's got to be some small piece of joy in there, right?
Oh, I get to see all my favorite people. I mean, okay, so yeah, that is probably my favorite thing in space. Like even things like Ethereum Denver right now, every time one of these crypto conferences happen, for me, it's like seeing my family. Like I've been living this for years, and so like, especially when COVID hit and like no one can get together and do stuff and you couldn't talk to anyone, like it was like being away. Like I have my real family, but like this is my like friend family, and it's like just as important to me. And it felt like a piece was missing. I just love being able to enjoy these experiences, these weeks, these crypto conferences. I mean, it's as much a part of my life as, reading books and, sending emails.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been saying that too with the past couple of years being so crazy that when we finally do, and I do attribute a lot of these great experiences of these Web3 events to that, us being stuck at home, if you will. But when we do run into people we haven't seen in a while, we're hugging them a little tighter and for a little bit longer. And that's just, I think we were really craving that human interaction, which is completely understandable too. But meeting new people too. I think that we've been so hyper connected and digitally addicted for so long. And then we had a hard stop, whether we liked it or not, worldwide. And now re-entering the world, if you will, with a little bit different of a perspective. Again, you got to find the silver lining in everything, right?
Got to.
Well, Greg, I really appreciated your time and enjoyed our conversation here. I learned a lot about what you got going on. I love the fact that you're local here to Miami, and we'll definitely be able to stay in touch. I got to get to one of these parties. They sound like a great time, and I'm sure you and I are going to be supporting each other in some form or fashion. We'll have to have you back on the Grit Daily Startup Show too to keep us posted on what you got going on.
Gritty as fuck, man. Let's do it.
Let's rock and roll. Thanks again, Greg. I appreciate your time. Until next time, friends. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Grit Daily Startup. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. This way you'll get updates as new episodes become available. This podcast is brought to you by gritdaily.com, the premier startup news hub. More information at gritdaily.com. Once again, I'm your host, Sebastian Rusk. Until next time, friends.